Very excited. So what we're going to be talking about, everyone, is how to avoid career overwhelm. And here's the deal. I often find that when a client comes to us, and this happens almost all the time, who is in career transition, and for whatever reason, they're not totally satisfied with their job, and they want to find that right fit. They have a really hard time and get overwhelmed pretty easily determining what the right fit would be and brainstorming alternatives, other possible ideas. And I'm sure, Caroline, you've heard this before from people who come to you. It's like, where do I look and how do I know what to consider? And they typically get pretty overwhelmed. So that's what we're talking about today, is how to avoid that feeling being overwhelmed like that, so that you can effectively and efficiently brainstorm different options. Do you hear this often from people, Caroline?
I do. There's so much information out there, but it's just knowing, number one, where to find the right information, and then exactly the theme of this presentation, how to narrow all that down into something that makes sense for you.
Yeah, totally. So let's dive right in. So why is this important in the first place? So it's important because too many people are not in the right fit. And I don't know about you, Caroline, but I feel like every several years, however often they do these polls, whether it's Gallup or there was another recent poll by or survey by Right Management, and every time a majority of the workers are unsatisfied with their job. So in this example here, in this recent Gallup poll, it was 70% of the people are unsatisfied at work, the people they surveyed. And it's a constant problem, I think. I feel like I hear this every few years in these different surveys. And so this is why it's so important. There's still too many people out there that are just not in the right fit and are not getting that sense of reward and satisfaction from their work. And so right now, everyone, I want you to think about this for a moment. Which category, if you look on this slide here, which category do you fall into? Are you very satisfied or even pretty satisfied with your job? Are you somewhat satisfied, thinking you might need to make a change but not totally sure if that's the case? Or are you very unsatisfied and you need to define the right fit? That was me for a long time before I discovered I wanted to be a coach. I was very unhappy. I had 5 different jobs, before I was 26, and it was really, really tough for me. So think about this right now for me, everybody. Which category, and write it down. Write down which category you fall into, the very satisfied somewhat or very unsatisfied. And I want to just give you a sense of time frame here, because a lot of times when people come to us, they want to know, Hallie, how long is this going to take for me to figure this out? So one of the first steps we want to kind of walk you through is to determine the time frame that you need to figure out the right fit. So if you're very satisfied, if you fall into that category, you basically just need to think about career management and being prepared if things change. Now, I don't want people to be fearful that, oh no, they're going to get downsized or anything like that. It's not about that. But it's very important, as we all know these days, to be actively managing your career. So you want to take a class every 6 months to brush up on your skills. Evaluate where you are. With your career plan, you want to evaluate it at least every 6 months. Attend association meetings and stay on top of trends. Does that sound right to you, Caroline?
It definitely does.
Okay. So this career management concept is critically important. If you are somewhat satisfied and thinking about, maybe I need to make a change, I'm not totally sure, you want to give yourself about 6 months. Because it can take about that long to brainstorm ideas, do the research, talk with people, but if you're not in as much of a rush, you can give yourself about that 6-month time frame. These are just general parameters. But if you are very unsatisfied and you want to make a change ASAP, what typically happens for our clients through this process that we're going to be talking about today is it usually takes about 2 to 3 months if you are working full-time to define the right fit. Okay, so think about 2 or 3 months of brainstorming ideas, informational interviews, etc. And then the implementation time obviously varies. It could be 6 months to a year to conduct that search and make that transition. Okay, does that make sense, Caroline?
It certainly does. It almost, you can tell by those categories and the amount of effort that you put in, depending on the need that you have and the time frame, you can really sort of compress or lengthen it just depending on where you are.
Yeah, And that's perfect. This just gives you general guidelines, everyone, for about how long this might take. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So let's keep going. So we heard the bad news. Too many people are not in the right fit. The good news is that it is possible to find your direction, find that sense of fulfillment at work. It does take time and effort. It's a balancing act, everybody, of being practical and finding that passion, and there will be compromise. This is not about Pollyanna, we wave the magic wand and it's all perfect, right? But it is possible. 98% of our clients find their career direction and are excited about their work again. So I want you to get this and understand it so that you're motivated to make that change. It is possible. It does take effort and time, but it can happen. Okay, so let's keep going. So what's the problem? So we talked about, why this is important, being in the right fit and identifying your options. And what's the problem? We kind of touched on this a few minutes ago. The difficulties that I find people have with brainstorming long-term career options is that it's really difficult to narrow down their choices in the first place. And there's two reasons. If you look on the slide here, number one, there are many factors to consider to know the right fit. And number two, and I haven't found it yet, maybe Caroline has and she'll share it with us. No website out there, just one comprehensive list of all the jobs out there, right?
Exactly.
So it becomes overwhelming for people. So first of all, in the many factors to consider, there are lots of things to consider in determining the right fit. We have a career model that we use with our clients. It has 8 pieces on it, and we have them carefully consider each one of those pieces and how they fit together. And I have people that come to me all the time and say, I took this career test, and it told me I should be a circus clown or a librarian or a firefighter or something that they just weren't interested in. And the reason why that happens, the assessments are incredibly helpful, but they usually only test for a few of these factors. So then people are still kind of floating out there, unsure what they want to do because they only have a few of the pieces. And then the second thing, like we talked about, is there isn't a website out there that can just, wave that magic wand, you plug in a few things, and it's going to tell you the right thing. So as a result, career seekers, they're already frustrated or unhappy. They become overwhelmed and fearful. And a lot of times, they will come to us. When a client comes to us, and I ask them how long they've been considering leaving, 9 times out of 10, it's over a year. And they just haven't done anything about it yet, because it's such a difficult process, or can be. So it's easier sometimes to just kind of bury your head in the sand. Do you hear that, Caroline, when you talk with people?
I do, absolutely. And I actually just had a conversation with a fairly recent graduate just recently on this exact topic. And I think what add to that is, people don't necessarily have an idea about the details of a particular career area. So they don't, without the specifics and having tried out something to begin with, it's awfully hard to make a jump and say, I'm definitely interested in that. And knowing the steps to learn more about these various career paths so that they can at least gain some comfort with it is a hurdle. So yes, definitely hear that.
Yeah, I actually had a guy contact me. It was almost to the day 1 year later. He had contacted us about coaching, said, okay, I'm not ready yet, not sure. Mm-hmm. A year later, almost to the day, I called again and said, I need to talk with you. I haven't done anything about it. And I mean, it happens. We're busy. It's hard to fit this into our schedules too. And I just want to encourage everyone out there that don't wait till it's so painful to make that move. It's a little bit easier to do so when you're just slightly dissatisfied and you have a little bit more time to vet it out. That takes a lot of the pressure off. So, and know too that, if you are in that tough place, it's possible. You just absolutely got to find a way to fit it into your schedule. Okay? So we are going to talk today about where to start, so let's keep going. So here's the solution. So 2 solutions are to conduct online research and brainstorm or talk with others. Okay, and we're going to talk about both of these things. So today, or for today, we're going to focus mostly on online research, but let's touch on brainstorming with others for a moment. And then Caroline, feel free to jump in here too with ideas as well. So what I call this, with our clients is set up a dream team, okay? And what this means is 2 people in your life, whether it's work, personal, whatever is appropriate. Obviously, you're not going to go tell your colleagues at work that you're leaving your job, but maybe a former coworker. that can help you with your search and maybe brainstorm ideas with you. So go ahead and get out your pen or pencil, everybody, or type it on your computer, and write down 2 people who might be able to brainstorm career ideas with you. I had a client, Ben, here in Atlanta. He invited 5 guys over for pizza one night, a Saturday night. He came up with 30 new career ideas from that brainstorming time with them. He was thrilled. So you just never know, especially people that know you well and understand your personality type, your skill set, and your background or experience. They might come up with some great ideas for you, okay? And then informational interviews is another way to kind of brainstorm with others. And what I suggest is that for each industry that you are considering or a career path that you're considering, conduct at least 3 to 5 informational interviews in that, with people in that industry in order to get a sense of what it's like. Does that make sense, Caroline? Would you say like 3 to 5 is an okay number?
I think so. You want those different perspectives to be able to make a good decision. And I love the idea about the dream team, because I think a lot of the pressure about making career decisions is thinking, this is going to have to come out of my own head. And to have input from people who see you regularly, have seen you in the workplace or other, other areas of your life, and to have them help you to make the decision and communicate how they see you is so great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and this is great. I mean, my client just gave him pizza for the night. They had a ball, and he got out a whiteboard or, flip chart and wrote everything down. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So both of these things are really, really good. And the informational interviews, by the way, everyone, remember these are short meetings with people in the industries that you are interested in to learn more about if they are the right fit for you and how to get your foot in the door. They're not asking for a job. It's just information. And by the way, networking with alumni is a fabulous way to get connections. My clients always, or typically, I shouldn't say always, but a lot of times they forget about those alumni connections, and that is a warm lead for you to set up these informational interviews. So brainstorming with others, everyone, is a critical piece of the process. I always have all of my clients start with online research first, though, and that's why we're going to focus on that piece today. And just FYI, if you look at the bottom of the slide here of the screen, there are 2 blog posts that I wrote about informational interviews. Feel free to check those out. And Caroline, can we email everyone the PDF of the presentation afterwards too?
Absolutely. And I was just about to say, anyone who did not participate in the last career conversation regarding informational interviewing, just shoot me an email and I'll send you the recording from that series so you can go back and listen to that if you're interested.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. Okay, so 2 solutions here, and we're going to move to the next slide and talk about the online research specifically, okay? And basically, the reason why we focus on this one first is the first step, because you don't want to go out there and conduct informational interviews and not already have a sense of what's going on. You don't want to be a total, complete novice. You want to be kind of, armed and dangerous, so to speak, with some information and a sense of things so that you make a good impression when you're talking to the person you're doing the informational interview with. Caroline, do you agree with that? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think it'll help with, obviously, the impression that you make as well as just your general confidence when you're having a conversation about this new area.
Yeah, that's really true. And also, everyone, it will help inform the questions you ask. Okay, so really, really important. So here's the deal, everybody. So for the online research, if you look at this slide, there is a basic 4-step process that I have my clients go through, okay, to help them brainstorm ideas online using the internet. So through online research, you can learn about different career paths you may not have known about before or learn more about some you do. And the key, everyone, here is to stay organized in your search. And this is critical, so write it down, and I'll give you an Excel sheet on the next slide that will help you stay organized. But I have too many people, if they have not stayed organized, they come back and say, oh, I got lost in the internet, and they couldn't, find where they started, and it becomes more overwhelming again. So critically important piece is to stay organized with your search and follow this 4-step process. So this is an overview of the process, okay? Basically, it's identifying and writing down the keywords for the industries you're interested in order to find, different industries and career paths. Plugging those keywords into the general search sites. That's step number 2. Number 3 is brainstorming sites. I'll give you those in just a moment. And then also plugging your keywords into job boards. Okay, that's the basic 4-step process. I just want to share a quick story with you about how helpful this can be. I had a client, Catherine, in Denver. She wanted to work in or run a bed and breakfast. She already actually knew what she wanted to do. But she did not realize until she started using keywords about bed and breakfast and education, etc., that there is an association out there for bed and breakfast owners. There are classes you can take to learn how to do that. And she actually found out that there was this whole different career path about being an inn sitter where you stay at the inn when they go out of town on vacation, and you can actually make more money in some cases than owning the bed and breakfast. So she attended one of their conferences that year. It was great because she had no idea that this existed. Have you ever heard about that, Caroline, with anybody you've talked to too, where they've just learned about all these new things? Uh-oh, Caroline, you still with us? Can you guys hear me? Okay, so I'm going to keep going, and then Caroline can let me know if there's any issues. I'm hoping everybody can hear me okay. So you can?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And Caroline says she can too. Okay, so let's keep going. So here's the deal, everyone. Write this down for me right now. In order to conduct the online research, I would suggest you break it down into like 30 minutes or an hour a week. Sitting at the computer for 2 hours, I think it's overwhelming for people. So write down now when you can spend between 30 minutes to an hour a week. You need to wake up earlier on Saturday, or Wednesday evening, you stop at Starbucks on your way home from work with your personal computer so you don't get sucked into other things at home. And think about right now how much time you can devote to this as well. And write it down. Set an appointment in your calendar, a reminder on your phone, whatever it is you need to do. But the more structured, everyone, you are about this, and set that time frame for yourself, the more committed you'll be, and the more likely it is that it will happen. So again, like I was saying, between 30 minutes to an hour. If you can spend more, and that's okay, that's totally fine. But typically what I find is with our clients who are working full-time, they can spend about an hour a week, give or take, doing this research, okay? All right, so let's keep going. So staying organized, I mentioned that a moment ago, and then after this, everyone, I'm going to give you an overview of the sites, and then we're going to go through each of the steps, by the way, step by step, so I can show you what you need to do in each of these 4 steps. So remember, you need to stay organized, you need to track your keywords, your ideas, the pages you want to revisit later, any requirements that you're finding out about or salary. And here is this sample Excel sheet. This is something we give to our clients. Feel free to download it to help you stay organized with your search. It's very easy to use. The tabs are laid out for you, and they will help you with your job search as well, okay? So feel free to download that. We'll send you the PDF and the recording afterwards. All right. Okay, so here is basically the overview of the site. So you saw a moment ago that the sites that you want to use are general search sites, like Google, like Bing, Yahoo, whatever works for you, okay? Career brainstorming sites, everyone. These are 4 great sites. There might be some more out there. And Caroline, if you have more, you can, share with us. But these are great sites, mypursuit.com, ONET, WetSeat, Glassdoor. These will all help you brainstorm ideas. I will say one thing, everybody. The top 3 are more brainstorming sites. Glassdoor is more about salary research and also reviews that people give about certain companies and what it's like to work there. So that one is a little bit different. You might want to use that one a little bit later in the process. But the first 3, for example, if you plug in a keyword like data analysis into mypursuit.com, what these sites will do is they will bring up career paths that use or have that keyword in it, and it will help you add to your list, okay? And then the third type of site is the job board. I like Indeed and Simply Hired a lot. I think there's less clutter on there, so those are the ones that I typically suggest to people. And then there's also industry-specific sites that you can plug your keywords into too, like idealist.org has nonprofit and some volunteer work as well, but for nonprofit organizations. And then, for example, for marketing jobs, this is a site I just found this morning again, so I always like to find new sites because there are always new ones popping up, marketinghire.com, okay? So this is the basic overview of the site where you all are going to plug in your keywords. So let's look at step number 1. So usually people are like, okay, so how do I generate this list of keywords, okay? And your list of keywords can be anything from anything that you're interested in, your values, what's important to you and what's going to be fulfilling to you at work, and your skills. Okay, so it can include anything from here. So, for instance, if you have an interest in landscaping, gardening, weeding, data analysis, or management skills, or if you highly value education, you could have a keyword that is teaching, mentoring, coaching, okay? If you value and really enjoy at your current job or have before, like creating greater efficiency or process, it can be operations director or efficiency consultant. If you have a skill in organizing data, you could put that down as a keyword. In financial analysis, marketing, or presentation skills, you can use those as well, okay? So come up with a list of keywords that you want to brainstorm. It doesn't have to be a list of 20 things. It could be a list of 3 or 4 as a start. That's totally fine. And actually, your dream team can help you come up with this list of keywords. So think, everyone, about, okay, what are my skills? What are 2 or 3 things that I'm really good at that I like to use at work? Think about a couple of interests you have. You know, is it education? Is it marketing? Is it something else? And what else do you value that's important? Is it efficiency or creating process or a methodology to something? Those are keywords that you can use. And by the way, it doesn't matter if your keyword is 1 word or a phrase. It can be either. It could be 2 or 3 words if needed. When you play around with plugging them into the website, you'll find which keywords work best for you, and you want to adjust your keywords as you go on your list, okay? Caroline, are you back with us? Do you have any
I'm back online. Can you hear me just fine?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect, perfect. I think these are excellent suggestions to getting started. And I was going to say on the last, I just used ONET this morning to help an individual explore. So that and the Occupational Outlook Handbook are generally fantastic ways to get started, and then find related job titles to the ones you start with too.
Oh, good. That's right. The Occupational Outlook Handbooks are great. Remind us, do they have those for like different industries, correct, on the ONET site?
So yes, and they are connected, and you can just Google Occupational Outlook Handbook, and you will be able to input specific career titles and information, and then learn about salary ranges, a variety of things, expectations for education, training, and what the possibilities are for the near future in that job area, how many positions are going to be open, and what are the hiring possibilities.
Yes, that's right. I love that. My clients, when they hear about this, I had one recently say, oh, I spent hours on ONET. It's just fantastic.
It really is.
She just went to town. It was cute. And there are a lot of, by the way, everyone, too, there are a lot of little quizzes, like personality quizzes and skill set and values even quizzes on ONET as well. So there's a lot of good free tools that can help you add to your list of, you know, things that you want to have in a job. So thanks for sharing that, Caroline. It is a really great resource. Okay, so step 1 is keywords. Now step 2, and I just love this fish in the bowl, casting the wider net. I don't know, that's just my silly sense of humor here. But I think with the general search sites, the point here, everyone, is that you want to start out by casting a really wide net to try to capture as many ideas as you can. I don't want you to get more confused because, you know, obviously our goal is to narrow down ideas and pick one. But my clients are often saying to me, well, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I also find that when you cast a wider net, you're going to get more ideas. Even if some of them are not the right fit for you, everybody, one idea might lead to another. So I would prefer that people put more on their list at the beginning and then narrow it down later, because I think that's easier, and I think it also helps them think of additional possible ideas that they wouldn't have thought of before. Carolyn, is that what you would suggest too?
I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Okay. So you want to use these general search sites, again, like Google, Yahoo, or Bing. And with these, what I do, everyone, is I will type in, if you look in the right side here on the slide, you know, careers in data analysis or jobs in education. Usually you need to use a string of keywords when you're using these general search sites because you're looking for jobs. You're not looking for, you know, something else related to this. So you want to add that string, and again, you can play around with it. I typically suggest people don't go further than, honestly, the first page of the search, because once they start going deeper and beyond that, sometimes it's less relevant. And the way that I see this first step, everyone, just by the way, is it's very high level, it's very quick. You're not going in yet to like read all of these articles, because then you might get lost in the internet. I really want you to like go through this kind of, you know, really fast and say, okay, this site looks helpful, let me come back to it later. This is very big picture at the beginning, okay? So you want to plug your keywords into the general search sites. And by the way, if this wasn't obvious before, with your keywords, everyone, you want to spend about, you know, 5 or 10 minutes writing a list of keywords. If you're having trouble coming up with related keywords to your skills or interests, use thesaurus.com. Just go online and type in that word, because then you'll get some other additional keywords. And you want to have your keyword list written out as much as you are comfortable with at the beginning, so you feel like you've covered your bases, and then do the search. But keep that list of keywords in your Excel sheet so you don't lose it, because that's going to be your guide for your searching over the course of the next several weeks or several months, whatever it is. Okay? Carolyn, does that make sense to you?
It sounds great, yes.
Okay, pretty straightforward. All right, so let's talk about step number 3. So then you take your keywords, and you may have adjusted them a little bit based on what you found on the general search sites, and you plug them into the brainstorming sites. We gave you the list earlier, so go back to the recording, and remember it's ONET, MyPursuit, etc. And the keywords plugged into these sites will help you narrow down your ideas, but also begin to make it real. So like Caroline was talking about, you'll start to see requirements like, educational requirements, or skills that are required, or software knowledge, whatever it is, and you'll also start to see here salary. So it will help you kind of begin to make it real at this point and say, ooh, this is not realistic for me, and this one is. So you're going to start adjusting your career ideas at this point, okay? And there's a blog, the brainstorming, the little URL here at the bottom, is a blog post I wrote about this brainstorming, this whole process that we're talking about if you want additional information, okay? And let me say this, let me say this. I should have actually said this in the slide before everybody. I referenced it, but let me reiterate, very important. When you're going through the first page of Google, Bing, whatever, and when you're going through these sites as well, you want to copy and paste the links that you want to come back to and visit them later on. The critical piece, everyone here, if you go into each of those sites you want to look at right then, that's when people get lost in the internet. So your very first step, as you're going through, steps 2 and 3 here, is to copy and paste the websites that you want to come back to. And then spend time later on going back to those, okay? Because when people go into them right away, it's when they tend to get lost. Does that make sense, Caroline? Did I explain that well enough so it's real clear?
I think that sounds great. I do think that you're exactly right. You're explaining it in a very clear process so that you don't get too far down one path, and then forget to go back down another. So having those resources and listing those out and then coming back to them during the next step sounds great.
Yeah. So that's what you want to do, everybody, because a few times I've had people come back and they say, well, I spent like 2 hours and I'm still overwhelmed and confused. You've got to be really methodical about it and copy and paste those and keep track of them. So you've got columns, for example, in your Excel sheet. These are the career ideas I'm currently thinking about, and you copy and paste the relevant websites that you want to revisit under each one of those sections so that they're also categorized by the idea. Okay, excuse me. So step number 4 is to plug your keywords into the job board. Okay, here are some examples. And they can include like Indeed.com, that's here at the bottom here, but any other ones that you prefer or like. Here's what I'll say about Monster and Career Builder, everyone, the larger ones. I find that they're helpful in the first step when you're casting a wider net because they have a lot on there. But once you're starting to narrow down your ideas, I prefer for clients to switch to Career Builder or Indeed. And I know on JacketNet Jobs, Caroline, how do you search using that site?
You can search on the alumni job board by keyword, by industry area, and geographic location. So those are the criteria that you have to search for different opportunities that are posted just for Georgia Tech alumni. And also, just so you all know, for many of the major areas that we have represented at Tech, I have pulled together on just going to gtalumni.org, clicking on Career Services, and clicking on Career Resources. You can get into a lot of those, whether it be electrical engineering or marketing within business. There are a lot of profession-specific sites already grouped on our website, so it might be worth taking a look at.
That's perfect. Oh, good. I'm glad that you mentioned that, too, because that sounds fantastic. So at this point, everyone, you want to go ahead and use the job boards, because then the purpose of this is now you're finding tangible, real examples of possible jobs you might be interested in. So this is why it's the last step of the process, because then you're seeing out there in reality, so to speak, the job openings that might be appealing for you. Now, I will say to everyone, it is okay to look outside your geographic area at the beginning. If you're just trying to figure out, okay, what's the right job for me and what's the right path, it's okay to look outside geographic area, even if you're not willing to move, because it's about painting the right picture of the job that you want. And then once you have a clear sense of that, you start to look in your area to see if that exists there and where it does, okay? So this last part is to search the job board, okay? And let's keep going. So if you all, and then I'm going to do a quick overview of the 4 steps, and then we'll start to close out for today and do Q&A too. So if anyone on this call needs help with their job search, whether it's informational interviews, elevator pitch, networking, etc., just know that I'm happy to talk with you. We do a complimentary consultation with everyone who contacts us to find out if it's the right fit and how we can best help you. Okay, so just know that that resource is there too. So the 4 steps, just to review, are to come up with your list of keywords, brainstorm or search on the general search sites, the brainstorming sites we talked about, and then finally look on the job boards. And remember to copy and paste those websites and come back to them later, okay? So let's move to taking action, because it's critically important. And I don't know about you, but I've attended webinars like this or speeches and been all gung-ho and excited, and then I get distracted and don't take the action steps sometimes. So write down, everyone, get out your pen again, write down 1 action step for this week that you will take based on what you've learned today. And I wrote down here on this slide, remember to make it specific. For example, I'm going to spend 30 minutes on Sunday, coming up with my list of keywords, and I'm going to talk with my mom and my sister or a friend or whomever to help me come up with ideas. And like I just said, I said Sunday, have a deadline, okay? I'm going to give you a moment to write that down and think about that. And again, there's another link here for more information about staying organized during your search and during this brainstorming process. You can read more about that. These links, by the way, everyone, are all just articles on my blog. You can take a look at those. Okay. And then the next step, after you've done the online research, remember everyone, let's go back to for a minute, the informational interviews. So this is when you go back out there into the world, so to speak, with the information that you've gathered so far, and you start to conduct these informational interviews. So Caroline is going to send, Caroline, remind me, you wanted them to email you, right, if they wanted the recording?
You know what, since these are so related, at the conclusion, I will send out the PDF, as we discussed, along with the recording of this particular session. I've had some notes, even people had to jump offline a little early, so I'll just send it out to the group, and I'll also send out the informational interviewing recording. So in case you want to go back and listen to that, we can get it all in one email, and you can just pick and choose what you'd like to listen to again.
Perfect. Oh, that's so great. I think that's great. So for more information, you can see that email. We also have a job search workbook that covers every element of your job search as well as informational interviews too. And I want to just close things out for today for the moment, and then if you're okay, Carolyn, I've got a few minutes for Q&A too.
Sure.
But I always just want to remind everyone that I realize the online research is a little bit easier for people because, you know, they can sit at their computer and do their work, but even that can be overwhelming. And then going out there and talking with people that you don't know can be intimidating sometimes too. And so what helped me specifically during my career transition when it was tough and kind of scary was reminding me of this quote, "The greatest risk in life is not taking one." So remember everyone, just push yourself out of your comfort zone, even if it's a little bit, in order to make this happen because it is so worth it, I promise you. So thanks so much for being here today, and we'll go ahead and do some Q&A online.
Great. I've actually got a question that I've been asked to ask you, Hallie. This person is in the somewhat satisfied phase of her position. The dissatisfaction lies in what she thinks to be a situation of work-life balance. How do you approach that? So giving her a current caregiving situation, she would love to go into a role that's more part-time. She enjoys the content of the job, but just not the hours. However, being in a more engineering workforce, it is in male-dominated. Sometimes that's seen as a less important route, or that person can be seen as you know, not as valuable or even as lazy is the feeling there. I feel that, and this person feels highly frustrated about the engineering field because she knows doctors, consultants, lawyers, etc., who have no issue going in sort of that hybrid part-time role and can help care for parents or children, etc. Do you have any advice on this kind of situation or dissatisfaction? Talk to me about that, Hallie.
Yeah, and then feel free to jump in too. So, sure. I mean, the good news is that you enjoy what you do now in terms of the work, so that's great. So, I mean, the first thing, and I would be prepared that you may need to move on if you decide to go this route, is I would ask, you know, if it's a possibility. And perhaps this, you know, this person already has asked, and that's the whole point. But at least you want to try at your current employer and find out. And go in with a plan. You know, if you're going to ask, go in with a plan. This is how I'll handle my workload. I'll do this at home or whatever it is. But at least go in with a plan. And I wouldn't hesitate to ask. I would just be careful of if you do, you know, it might not be looked upon positively. And if it's not, you need to be prepared to then conduct a search. I would do some informational interviews with people in your field to try to find out if there are companies, engineering focused, that have this philosophy of better work-life balance. There's got to be a few out there. And then I would also look at part-time jobs just on like Indeed and actually type in part-time engineering jobs, for example, and see what you can find. That might help you identify the companies or organizations that might be open to this. It might help you find like a consulting gig instead where you're able to control your hours a little bit more. There is an organization, they have an arm here in Atlanta, it's called momcore.com, and it's specifically geared towards people who want to work fewer hours but have a professional degree, lawyer, etc., and they help place you in more flexible jobs. That's their whole purpose.
I think that's perfect, Hallie. There's, career relaunch, or I think relaunch is actually the site. I'll look it up in case you're interested, person that asked this question. But that's a resource that I've used in the past in workingmothers.com, where you can sort of find different companies that are different organizations that embrace, whether it be more flexibility in work. There are company lists out there that rank these companies with that exact how family friendly kind of are they, and so we can help find some resources that might point you in the direction of a company that is especially receptive to the situation you might be experiencing.
Yeah, good, exactly. I think there are options, but I do agree that certain industries are not as open to it. So
right.
It's not to discount that it can be tough. I think you got to do some research and figure it out.
Yep.
Good question.
Any other questions, folks? It seems like just clarify one more time, Hallie. The dream team is who in your life?
It can be anyone. I would say though, if you can, I think it's good to have, a friend, but also maybe a former coworker. So it's ideally if you can find someone who's seen you work professionally or seen you in action professionally, that helps a little bit more because they know how you are, your skill set in that area. And I also like actually, a mix of male versus female because sometimes they might see something in a different way or have a different perspective on things. Mm-hmm. But basically it can be a friend or family member or a former coworker, but someone who knows you well that you can confide in and who is supportive and will be helpful and not just say, well, I think you should go do this and, try to push you into something. It needs to be a supportive person who will be willing to brainstorm ideas with you.
And Hallie, I've got a great suggestion actually, and a great point about using LinkedIn as a source of information. I actually use in some of the very ways you mentioned, using LinkedIn, the advanced search category or the advanced search screen to put in keywords or company names or whatever it be, to use that to generate a list of people and then looking at their career paths. What do you think about LinkedIn as it factors into the steps you mentioned today?
I think it's fantastic. I would do it as part of step 4, the last step, so like when you're plugging into the job board. Number 1, because it's a great point because LinkedIn does have a job board, so you can find some openings there. But then also I like it for finding people because then you can look at their career path and find out, okay, what are the themes I'm finding? I've looked at 5 people's profiles who are in the job that I want to be in. And what does it take to get in there? What's their background? It's really good to see career progression and a path to something too.
It is, and I've even used it for our younger alums who have come in, say they've graduated industrial engineering and don't yet have an idea of the first job that they want to take on or that they might be interested in. So they're very interested in their course content, but not sure how that equates to a job title. And just simply using the keyword search and inputting your major is very helpful in seeing where did all these other Georgia Tech alums go for their first opportunity, or where are they working company-wise? That can be a huge help.
Yeah, and then you're finding also more connections that you can make.
Exactly.
Great point. Love it.
Let's see. I've got someone who, let me see, it's a bit of a read through. Been somewhat satisfied and very unsatisfied. Been employed with the same company for 20 years. And mostly as a graphic designer, just more technically minded, and the person that the marketing team, the go-to person for the marketing team when they have to implement new applications or something technical. So she enjoys solving problems, dealing with data, etc. Teammates recognize this and often lean on her to help carry out those tasks, but creatively she's drained and doesn't want to do this anymore and actually have a challenge even doing it anymore. So sort of some things have happened life-wise that have made her realize how short life is and that she wants to be fully satisfied. So she has a couple of advocates on the job who have been trying to get me into a job that's better fit. Any ideas on where to start on that?
So we need a list of keywords, and so I would start honestly with careers like that are related to graphic design, and try to think about, not that, I mean, it sounds like you may or may not want to make a dramatic change, but that creativity is the thing that stuck out for me. So is it about, I just need to be in a different organization where I can be more creative and people aren't asking me as much about the technology, or in a different role, that kind of thing, that's a possibility. But then careers related to graphic design, I would think about, you know, is it illustration? Like, what are the elements of graphic design that you really like? And pull keywords out of that. And then see if you can find different career paths that would use your degree. And you can also plug in, you know, graphic design degree, for example, into LinkedIn and see what people are doing with that too. But that could help you get a start if you come up with that list of keywords that you pull from what it is you enjoy now. That can help you brainstorm some additional ideas.
And as a follow-up, Hallie, this person says she does want to be more technical, has a background in industrial design. So it sounds like maybe, you know, doing some research on that degree area and maybe some possibilities like on LinkedIn if other people have taken that degree, also keeping in mind, obviously, the 20 years that you've spent in graphics design and what skills would you like to leverage for your next position. But, you know, also the technical skills that you've honed as a result of being a resource for your other teammates, that seems like it's a good place to start. What are those skills do you want to use more on the technical side then? And do that, the keyword and searching accordingly.
Perfect, that's great. Okay, good.
Well, that wraps up our questions for today. That looks like we've gotten everybody who submitted, so thank you very much.
Perfect. All right, good. Well, thank you everyone for being here today. You will get notification. I don't remember how you're doing it, Caroline, but for the January webinar that we will schedule and set up. So stay tuned for that. And thank you again for sharing your lunch hour with us today, everyone.
Yep. Thank you, Hallie, and thank you everyone for being here. Have a great weekend.